More chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
Wrexham.
He's done it, the magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Foden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conley's done it!
Crumble for options, put it back to Morels. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morel. What a goal! What a goal! What a goal from Al Robson Cardiff! Folks, good wicket kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wanagati, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
And here's Mendy! There's that race-class roar again! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast, one of the most recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. No Daz this week as he's off having his garden groomed, but in a week when a toddler pool prodigy in England has already broken 2 Guinness World Records for playing pool and snooker before his 3rd birthday. Jude Owens broke the record for the youngest person to make a snooker double pot at the age of 2 years and 261 days old. And a double pot in snooker is when 2 balls are legally potted with a single strike of the cue ball into different pockets. World Records explained in a news release. Owens followed up that feat by breaking the record for the youngest person to make a pool bank shot at the age of 2 years and 302 days old. A pool bank shot is when the cue ball is struck to hit the object ball off one or more rails before it enters the pockets, Guinness World Record said. The boy's father, Luke Owens, said he knew Jude would excel at the sport from the first time he picked up a cue. Jude has achieved quite a lot in such a short space of time, but to have 2 world records is probably a pinnacle moment. Well, how do you beat that? Well, there is one person I know who was always playing with balls in his pockets, and he's much, much older than 2 years old. It's Jamie!
Fair play, that's impressive.
That is impressive. That is very, very impressive. Very impressive. Mind you, you're into darts at the moment, haven't you? You were telling me the other day you're massively into darts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I used to be massively into it years and years ago. And then I didn't play for a long time. And then just over Christmas, obviously it was on, the World Championships was on. And I don't know if you watched it, but I'd love to go because it looks like going to a football match.
Yeah, Ali Pali's great.
And I watched a bit of it, and then to be fair, I had some vouchers and stuff for Christmas, and didn't really know what else to get, so I decided to buy a portable dartboard, and so I've been throwing the darts badly for the last couple of weeks.
Well, Jamie and I have had to be pulled off from the ceiling, obviously, after the result on Saturday, which we'll talk about in a minute. Daz, of course, though, isn't in person with us this week, but as usual, he has sent us a video filmer. So, hello, Daz.
Greetings. Greetings from Croydon. That's where I'm at the moment. So, unfortunately, driving back to from London, back to the mighty Diff. So I'm not going to really be able to join in. So sorry about that. So you're going to have to get one of these, what's becoming a little bit of a habit, video messages. But I'll send you some predictions. Hope the guys are okay. Speak to you in a bit. Bye.
Well, as we head towards the transfer deadline window, a few loans in and out have been announced by Wrexham Football Club. Mo Farl has returned to the club from his loan spell at Port Vale and undergo treatment for the injury sustained in Vale's victory against Bolton Wanderers this week. 22-year-old striker's loan spell will therefore be terminated, and Wrexham will assess his next steps following treatment. Tom Kelly has joined Cymru Premier side Bala Town on loan until the end of the 25-26 season. Following a change in priorities for Bootle earlier in the transfer window, Kelly now makes the move to Maes Tegid Stadium. And of course, Andy Cannon is the big one. He will move on loan to Burton Albion until the end of the 25-26 season. Back-to-back promotion winner Andy, 29, has recovered from an ACL injury he suffered in the win against Mansfield Town last February. So he's been out nearly a year. Having returned to full training, the midfielder, who has scored 12 goals in 88 performances for Wrexham, will now head to the Pirelli Stadium. And Gary Bowie's Brewers also currently have Seb Revan on loan. They sit 20th in League One. Jamie, let's talk about Mo Farl and Tom Kelly first. Mo Farl's a weird one for me because I remember him being heralded as this kind of, wunderkind kind of, thing, and just didn't really do it. I mean, Tom Kelly, he's a youngster. He's on his first year of his professional contract. So I think for him, going out to Bala, that's a great move. But Mo Farl?
Yeah, the Tom Kelly one's a simple one, isn't it? Young lad needs some competitive minutes. Makes perfect sense for him to go there. But yeah, I don't know, the Mo Farl one. It feels a little bit like this is going to go down the same route as Billy Waters, isn't it? Obviously, I'm not sure what the kind of thought process was behind the purchase of him. What they thought he was going to develop into, or who knows? Obviously, we're not privy to that. But unfortunately, it obviously didn't work out for him in the time he was at Wrexham. Really, hence why he went out on loan. And from what I gather, I've not really.
Well, he's played 23 times for Port Vale, scored 3 goals. So he's scored at least, and he has made some. He's made some appearances at least.
Well, I suppose they're rock bottom of the league, I think, aren't they? So I don't know. I don't know. I think he was when we bought him, it was a 3-year deal. So this will be. Well, we're halfway through that now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is this the last year? I don't know. Either way, I think obviously what the club was hoping for, that he'd go out on loan and he'd set League One alight with Port Vale, and then potentially he could come back to us and carry on developing, but that's not really happened. Has he got a future at Wrexham? You'd have to say at this point unlikely. But at the minute, he's obviously he's a contracted player, and hence why he's come back, and obviously to get his treatment. My gut feeling there is I'd be shocked if we saw him play for Wrexham again, but who knows? Just obviously disappointed that he's injured.
And Andy Cannon, the back-to-back, and of course to back because he got promoted with Southport before he came to us. A brilliant
Stockport.
video. Stockport, sorry, yes, not
Southport.
Not Southport. No, I don't think so. Stockport, sorry. Brilliant video that we saw where George Evans is being quizzed, saying, "Can you guess the player by their previous clubs?" And he goes through and he guesses all these ones, and they read out Andy Cannon's. And obviously, this is just before Andy Cannon joined, and he can't work it out. And then Andy Cannon just peeps his head round the door, and you can see George Evans going, "Oh my goodness." A good move for Andy to get, because I say it's been nearly a year now since he's kicked the football. So,
yeah, we'll never know, will we? We'll never know whether he could have contributed for us at this level. Who's to say he couldn't have? I think there were quite a few maybe that weren't convinced that Ollie Rathbone could do it at this level again, but he's sort of proved he can. I think unfortunately because of that horrific injury he had, the fact that he's not kicked the ball for over a year, there's no way you could justify one of the 25 squad places to him for this season. So again, it makes perfect sense for him to go out and get some minutes, go out to Wrexham B and try and get some minutes out there with the rest of the reserve team. But no, hopefully he'll get a good second half of the season. He'll get some good minutes under his belt, and then we can see, can't we? It's a tough one to call, but it feels a little bit like, for me, without kind of writing him off unfairly, it feels a bit to me like he falls into the Elliot Lee, Paul Mullin, Ollie Palmer, kind of James McLean bracket, where I think, unfortunately, we've kind of moved beyond his ability, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. But you do have to caveat that with he's not had a chance, has he? At least. He was quite prominent for us last season until that injury. So I'm not saying he couldn't do it at this league, but after such a bad injury, he needs to prove he can play again, because that was bad one. He's been out for a long time, hasn't he? So decent. I think decent move for him. He'll have some players there that he knows. Let's hope he can have a strong second half of the season.
And obviously, Wrexham reserves play during the week this week against Bolton Wanderers in the Central League.
That's funny because Burton Albion played Bolton Wanderers last night. Wrexham reserves.
There you go, twice in 1 week. But in the reserve game, in the Central League game, Danny Ward in goal, Barney was on, Mullin and J-Rod were on, Lee was on, Harry Ashfield was there, Aaron James was there. So it was a good mix of first-team players with some academy as well. 1-1 was the final score. J-Rod with the goal assisted by Mullin. Lee went off after six minutes in the second half. I mean, is there anybody? I mean, obviously we've not seen the match, so we can't say. But is there anybody where you kind of say, well, there you go, they're going to get back in?
No, God, no, I don't. Well, I mean, obviously Danny Ward, isn't it? I think he's the obvious one. If he's over his injury, now, and he can take a place in the squad. Whether that's at the expense of Callum Burton or as well as, I don't know. But if he's fit again, then you'd have to say that he becomes the reserve goalkeeper moving forward. He certainly doesn't come back into the team. Arthur's done more than enough to keep his place. Mullin and Lee is interesting ones. I didn't realise Lee was back from his injury, but obviously he is or was. I'm guessing that's just to keep minutes in their legs. I think it's been quite well publicised, isn't it, that Elliot Lee's, I think, had a loan, or there was a loan for him, but it fell through or something. I don't know what beyond that. I don't know any more reasons behind it. And again, the same with Mullin. I mean, I'd probably expect Mullin and Lee to go somewhere on loan in the next week before the transfer window closes. And then as for J-Rod, I mean, again, it's an interesting one because he's been on the bench for the last few games, but very sparingly used. He's when he's come onto the pitch, he's only been on for the last couple of minutes, if at all. Again, you can't help but think that the writing's on the wall for him in regards to, again, week left of the transfer window as we record this, or 5 days or whatever it is. Heavy links that we're looking at bringing a striker in. If that happens, you think to yourself, you can't see how he gets a place in the 25 / stays at the club. So I guess for players like that who are kind of without a place, for want of a better word, it's horrible. But I kind of hope for all of them that they can find moves that suit all parties.
Well, I was about to say, as we're recording this on the Wednesday, we've got 5 days left, as you rightly said, of the transfer window to go. Wrexham have not signed anybody as yet. As we mentioned, few players have gone out on loan. There are rumours about Connor Cody going out to Charlton Athletic, maybe. Obviously, that one you talked about, Lee. Obviously, Mullin's on there as well. Imagine there'll be other players, but lots of people we're linked to bringing in. 5 days to go, and obviously this might be as stale as old milk by the time we put this out on the Friday. But can you see players coming into Wrexham, or do you think Parker's going to stick with what he's got?
No, I mean, I think they've done a very good job in the last 18 months, haven't they, of keeping things under wraps a bit better than they used to. But it's hard, it's hard in this day and age because it's such a hot topic. It's anything to do with Wrexham, it just creates interest, doesn't it? I think it's no secret. I mean, Parky's kind of said to Rich Williams, isn't he? He said in an interview in the Lead that he said we are looking at players and we'll see what happens. I mean, as we know, historically, we do tend to do some business later on. So it's not a surprise that we're kind of going to the end. My gut feeling is it'll be no more than 3 at most. 2 or 3. I'd be very surprised if we don't bring in at least a body or 2. To be honest, but I don't think it'd be any more than 2 or 3. Obviously, the one that's been doing the rounds the last couple, or the two that have been the sort of the heaviest ones over the last week or so inbounds are the guy from France, Sharif is his name.
Sharif.
So
apparently, Parky and the senior staff were in France on Sunday. They went to see him play, and he was taken off on 60 minutes with an injury. So
I have to be honest. I'm a little bit. I don't know anything about the guy. I've never seen him play.
The guy's only like 19 or something. He's very young.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, you're clearly buying potential. But his goal scoring record this season is not really what I'd expect if we were going to be dropping reportedly, anything between 12 and 19 million quid, depending on the structure of the deal and things like that. Like I say, it's not my money, and I guess you have to trust the process of the people involved. They obviously feel if that's who they go for, they obviously feel that's somebody that's going to add value. It does feel a little bit like we were talking before about Mo Farley. It does feel a little bit like a Mo Farley in the sense of if we were talking about throwing that kind of money at a proven championship scorer, I wouldn't necessarily have as much kind of reservation. But to be throwing it on somebody who scored, I think, 4 goals this season in League 1 is interesting. But again, it might be total bollocks. It might not actually ever happen. But there's that one, and then obviously the one today is the Dalis Keeler Dunn again, isn't it? Which again, I have to be honest, I'm scratching my head.
I'm with you on this one. I'm with you on this one. Where would you put him? Where would you put him?
I rate him. I do rate him. I thought he's in the season when he was at Mansfield and we were in League 2, he was brilliant against us, and then in League 1 for Barnsley last year, he was brilliant against us. I saw him play against Liverpool in the FA Cup a few weeks ago, and he was the best player on the pitch. But again, rumours, but you're talking a fee in excess of 3 million quid for and I think what is he now, 29, 28, 29?
No,
Unproven at this level. And what I find really interesting is that he seems to be categorised as a number 9 or a number 10. I would say he's a number 10. He's an off the striker, but he's not a number 9. I know he scores a lot of goals, but I believe, a number 10. To answer your question about where he would fit in with us, I can only assume he fits into one of those 2 advanced, midfielders.
But do we need players in those positions right now? When we've already said that we could do with wing backs potentially. We could do with the goal scorer, but as you already said, he's not an out and out goal scorer. He scores goals, but he's not an out and out goal scorer. So do we need to put him in that position?
On the face of it, no. But then we don't know the full ins and outs of what's going on behind the scenes, do we?
No.
There would obviously be logic. It would seem there must be some method to it. If it's true, there must be some method to it, because it's a strange one that you would chase. As you say, there are other positions on the pitch which we are far more urgent. Wing back, definitely. And an out-and-out striker, I would say, are the 2 main priorities. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see, won't we? Hopefully this time next week when we're recording, obviously the transfer window will be closed and we'll have all the answers. but both of those, I'm a little bit confused by both of them. If I'm honest, I don't really see how either of those kind of fit what we want, what we need. But
so let's paint you into the corner. Let's say we have 3 people in. That means we've got to make 3 spaces. Well, we made 1 already with James McLean leaving. But who else do you remove? What other 2 players do you remove from the squad list to bring these other 2 new players in?
It's kind of a difficult one to answer without knowing who. It's almost like jigsaw pieces. Without knowing who we're bringing in, it's hard to say who you could take out, because for example, excuse me, let's just say for argument's sake, we that Sharif came in. You could look at that and you could say, well, Hardy or Rodriguez, take one of those out of the squad. Either of those would be expensive omissions if you can't move them on loan somewhere or sell them. But you'd say one of those 2, for example. As you mentioned briefly there before, it's heavily rumoured that Conor Cody's off to Charlton, which I know is not. We're not necessarily talking about bringing a defender in, so it's not like for like. But from a squad place perspective, that would be another one. That to me makes a lot of sense, as in from our point of view. I think if we can get him out somewhere and get some of his wages covered, again, we don't know the numbers, we don't know the ins and outs, we don't know the detail, but rumour suggests he's one of our highest earners. And the bottom line is, it's not worked out, is it? I think we probably all thought, as did the club think, that we were signing an ex-Premier League, ex-international centre-back. I think we probably all felt when we saw that signing that he was going to be at the heart of our defence.
Yeah, it was going to be him, wasn't it? It was going to be built. Yeah. The defence was going to be built around him. Yeah, absolutely.
And for whatever reason, it's just not worked out. And like I say, I think it's evident he's massively down the pecking order, because I think it's been pretty telling in some games where he's brought Thomason on instead of him, for example, or he's not even made the bench in some games. So if he is a high earner, which you'd suspect he is, if we can get some of the cost of his salary covered by him going out on loan, then that makes perfect sense to me. So I can see that happening. But yeah, I think Hardy, Rodriguez, and Cody potentially are 3 that you would have some question marks over at the moment.
That Cardiff game when he took Cody off and left Thomason on out of position. That says it all. That says it all.
Yeah,
to be brutally honest with
you. Yeah. From that point of view. It surprised me a little bit because, no, it doesn't surprise me at all. It's. I think it's shocked us all, hasn't it? I'm surprised in the club in a way, because it was a big gamble. Again, you can only base it off kind of rumours, and we don't know the numbers for sure. But again, working on the basis, and he's not going to have come to us for small money. He's come to us from Leicester, who were, I think, when he joined them, were a Premier League team, and then obviously they ended up in the Championship. So he's gonna be earning big money, and I just think, if he'd have been outstanding at Leicester, then you think, well, why can't he continue that on if he moves to us? But he'd done nothing, and he struggled like hell at Leicester. So, yeah. But look, you can't get them all right. You can't get them all right, and I think, like I say, if we can move him on somewhere on loan and get part of his salary covered and get him out of the squad numbers, I think defensively, I think we're pretty comfortable. I think for centre backs, obviously. I don't think Brunt's too far away. Obviously, we've got Doyle, Hyam, Scar, and Klimoth. And then if you put Brunt back in the mix, I'd say we've got ample cover there. So I think we can let him go. So yeah.
Well, Wrexham have made one signing. Wrexham AFC Women are delighted to announce the signing of defender Michaela Wildgoose from Derby County. Wildgoose 20 has agreed a deal until the end of the 25-26 campaign. A youth international with Northern Ireland at under-19 level, having represented their country at the under-19 European Championships. The young defender came through the ranks in Birmingham City's academy. After impressing on a dual registration deal with Loughborough Lightning, she then joined Burnley in August 2023 and remained with the Clarets until the summer of 2025. Upon her arrival in North Wales, Wild Goose said, "I'm excited to be here and looking forward to getting started with the girls. It's a real positive drive with where this club wants to go. They want to be at the top of the league, and that's something that I really wanted to join in on." She has also been at Derby County, which is a WSL2 side. She only played one game, but again, she's 20. She's a young player. She's an international, another international to add to the women, to add to Maz. She looks like looks like a very, very strong centre back, because she moved in when she came on Sunday, which we'll talk about later. We went to a back four and she was next to Jodie. I mean, I think this is a great potential signing for the future.
Yeah, I mean, barring what you've read out there and obviously what we found out about her since she signed, I don't know much about her and I've seen her play. But yeah, I think what you would say is that if you look at the caliber of the signings that we've made since Jenny Sugarman's been there so far, if she's in the same bracket as those, then yeah, we've got another good signing. Obviously, a position she felt she needed some cover or some additional support in for the second part of the season, or the final part of the season, whichever way you want to look at it. So yeah, it's let's see. Good luck to her. See what happens between now and the end of the season. Obviously, whether anything will go beyond that, we obviously don't know at this stage. But yeah, on paper it looks good.
Well, Saturday, and Wrexham pitched its tent at Loftus Road to take on Queen's Park Rangers in the next game in the Championship. Boy, what a day that was. I don't want to say too much right now because I want to go through the game, but there are those games which you go to as a fan where there are moments. Lots of people obviously refer to the FA Cup win at Arsenal in '92, Birmingham '97. The Man U game that we eventually lost, we scored first. I think that was in '98 or '99 at Old Trafford. I was that one, and you were as well. You were there that as well, weren't you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we were both that one. It's moments like that. For me, Coventry 2 years ago in the FA Cup where we beat them. It's just some atmospheres go, and it echoes the thing that sometimes you feel that crowds are flat because they react to what's on the game, and Saturday was a prime example of that because you had such a roller coaster ride. It was unbelievable. But anyway, first of all, before we do that, let's look at the lineup for Saturday. 4 changes from the draw versus Leicester. Dan Scarr in for Max Cleworth, Issa Kabori in for Ryan Longman, George Thomason in for Libby Kakachi, Nathan Broadhead in for Ollie Rathbone. He seems to like doing this kind of the changes, particularly dropping Cleworth out, putting Scarr in. We're still not seeing Kabori and Kakachi playing at the same time. I think, is that because Kabori's been eased in? I mean, what did you make of this starting 11?
Yeah, I didn't hate it. A little bit disappointed again to see Kakachi start on the bench, but I understand it. I think obviously they're being super cautious with his minutes. Well, I say they're being super cautious with his minutes. I'm assuming that that's what it is, rather than it being they feel Thomason gives them something maybe more defensive than Kakachi. I personally feel Kakachi is he is a complete wing back. I think he gets back and forward really well. I think Kabori on the other side's a little bit more great going forward, but a little bit sus coming back. So I'm working on an assumption that the Kakachi thing is just managing his minutes to try and make sure that he is properly over these injuries before he obviously starts getting hopefully a decent run in the team. But I'm just desperate to see him and Kabori both play. Scarr in for Max. Again, whether Max is still getting over this injury that he had, which kept him out a couple of weeks ago. I can't. I can't think it's any other reason. I don't think Max has done anything wrong to warrant being dropped out of the team. Again, in the midfield, I feel a bit for Dobson. I think, again, but is that a fitness thing? Again, we just don't know, do we? Because we're not kind of privy to the stats. Again, up front though, got a feel for Sam Smith a little bit, to be fair, but you can understand it. But no, look, I didn't have any major issues with that team. I think we've as we well know, we've assembled a good squad. Good starting 11 and a good bench as well. So no major issues really.
Well, they say football is a game of two halves. It was more like a game of 90 seconds in our case. We have to talk about the full game. The first half, you could pretty much just write off because it was probably 45 of the worst minutes of Wrexham football I've seen in a long, long time. QPR were in front from the game's first meaningful attack after just 6 minutes. Okonkwo tipped Dembele's thumping shot onto the bar, but Wrexham couldn't get to the rebound away, and Vale slammed in an unstoppable volley in the top corner. QPR should have doubled the lead on 17 minutes when Richard Coley chested the ball down for Paul Smith, only for him to volley into the side netting. Vale burst through a 50-50 challenge with Doyle in the 21st minute, but placed his left-footed shot wide from the edge of the area. QPR then had a series of corners around the half-hour mark, which ended with Amadou Mbenge's overhead kick dropping just over the bar. I took a screenshot of the match stats screen at halftime, and the Wrexham side read XG 0, shots 0, shots on target 0. It was, how did you feel? The crowd, we were like flat as an unrisen cake. Because we'd gone there with such hopes, and we just thought we're being played off the field. But worse, we're really not performing to the level we know we can do. How did you feel watching it at home?
Same. I echo everything you just said. It was hard to find the words. Like you said, I did the same. I took a screenshot of the stats the same as you. Nothing, no shots, no nothing. But it was everything about the half was just, we looked slow, we looked lethargic, we couldn't win 50-50s, we couldn't win second balls. When we had the ball, it's like as if somebody'd, swapped their hands and their feet over. Everything was just, even headers being cleared were going up or out or wide. They weren't going forward. It was just, it was a difficult watch, and I don't think the most avid and loyal Wrexham fan, I don't think anyone could have got to half time and thought, yeah, we can win this, because they played some all right stuff, to be fair.
They were very good. They were very good first half when they had the energy. They were very, very good. Very good.
Yeah, they were massively on top in that first half. Credit their goal. When you think there's been 5 goals scored in the game and 4 of them comfortably could make a highlight reel on their own. Their first goal as well, you have to give that in there, because credit to Arthur for the first shot from Dembele, I think it was, because that was a hell of a save. That was to push it onto the bar. But then again, we've made an absolute mess of clearing it, and it's ended up looping back up inside the box, and that was a superb volley that by Vale. It was an absolute peach of a volley. Excuse me, and no blame on Arthur for that one. And you think to yourself, oh, crap, you scored, conceded after 6 minutes. Hopefully that gives us a kick up the arse we need, and we'll kick on from there. But we absolutely didn't. Queen's Park Rangers did, and we didn't. It was, that first half performance was kind of that bad. It was one of these where I was thinking, it's very, very rare Parky makes changes at half time, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if we see a couple of changes. We didn't. But I wouldn't have been surprised if we had. Absolutely. The first 45 minutes, very forgettable.
I just want to mention the pitch while I remember. It was a bit like Talacra Beach in parts, and I couldn't believe they were watering at half time because they were just turning it into a mud field. I don't know whether you saw it on telly, but in some places it was really, really bad. It was cutting up really badly.
it looked certainly down the wings in particular looked really bad, and I must admit, you could see on you could see on the TV that the pitch was poor, and I do remember thinking to myself, it's unusual to see a pitch like that because in the Championship in this day and age we're used to seeing like carpet type pitches. I mean, Christ,
yeah.
I remember football back in the day when even like Premier League grounds pitches were a lot of them were crap. But these days, because of hybrid pitches and the stitch pitch like we've got and stuff, the longevity of them is so much better. And you now, it's unusual when you're watching Premier League, Championship football, even League One to a degree. It's unusual when you see a pitch of crap quality. So I don't know how much of a. I don't know. It's. I think it's too easy, isn't it, to use that as an excuse for the first half performance.
Not using an excuse at all. We just played bad. I don't think it mattered what we were playing on. But Loftus Road is a great ground. I mean, my first visit, it's a proper old ground. It's steeped in history and it's got that kind of that feel to it, which was great to go. Second half, then I imagine there was some Parky enthusiasm at half time because Wrexham came out a different team. They were much more energy, took the game more to QPR. Wrexham took until the 54th minute to register their first shot on goal, which says a lot. But then just seconds later were level. Ben Sheaf's superb crossfield pass played Broadhead in, and though the Welshman was tackled, Thomason followed up with a low strike, which Joe Walsh saved well. But then moments later, Thomason found Broadhead, who played in rolls. Mr. Doyle himself, who hammered an unstoppable left-footed shot into the top far corner to equalise for his first goal for Wrexham. Sheaf stung the Walsh's palms in the 69th minute after turning it onto his left foot and unleashing a rising shot. Nico Madsden ran down the middle of the pitch for QPR in the 72nd minute, but got his angles wrong and shot well from wide from distance. And Wrexham introduced Rathbone and George Dobson from the bench for the final quarter hour, with Broadhead and Sheaf making way. QPR then retook the lead in the 80th minute. However, Cook, again, managed to get free from a right-wing corner to head the goal across the goal and in. So the roller coaster is football. We played really, really well. We managed to get back into the game, to get it level. We were getting shots in. Great goal by Doyle for his first goal. Absolute, belter, to say the least. And then we give away an awful training ground free, corner goal where the guy just runs and nobody tracks him for them to go ahead. Frustrated.
The second half was first and foremost, was miles better from the off. We were a different team, whether that was Parky enthusiasm or just less animated or whatever. But whatever was said at half time clearly had an effect, because from the 46th minute, we were the better. We were the better team. And to be fair, I thought we very much deserved the goal we got. Doyle's goal. We were very much on the ascendancy. The goal itself again was a superb goal. Like you say, Thomason's shot, which was bounced out, lovely little ball from Broadhead into his path. And you got to remember that's a left-sided centre back that is making that run.
Yeah.
And I think it's you're starting to understand and starting to see now why Callum Doyle's playing at Championship level and why he's maybe not playing for Man City in the Premier League at the moment, because his passing is phenomenal 90% of the time. There is 10% of the time where he gives the ball away, and that's something he needs to try and iron out of his game. Because the problem is a lot of the passes that he goes to try and make are, if they come off, they're amazing. But if they don't come off, it puts us on the back foot. But generally his passing is brilliant. But his willingness and his desire to get forward as well is something else, which is a huge plus side in his game. And again, the defensive side is solid, but that's room for improvement, which is something that I'm sure he will develop and improve on. Hence, why he's with us. But that run was superb to find his way into the 18-yard box. And I mean, what a goal. The goalkeeper was just completely bemused by the strike and, absolutely didn't have a sniff. But couldn't have hit it any sweeter. And then again, the good thing was from that point on, after that goal, we carried on. We carried on building momentum. We carried on pushing forward. We carried on creating chances. And it'd be very easy of me to not tell the truth, right? But I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to be honest. When we got to about 60, 65 minutes, I was fuming that he hadn't made any substitutions because I felt that we were massively on top, and I felt that we needed some fresh legs in midfield, i.e. Rathbone instead of Matty James or Sheaf. And I didn't feel that Kiefer Moore was working up front, and I thought we should have been looking at bringing Sam Smith on. So I'll be very honest and transparent and say, I was fuming at 60, 65 minutes that why is he not making a change? Like you said before, it took till 75 minutes before he made the changes, and by that time QPR had started to come back into the game a little bit. But you think to yourself, it's 1-1, the game's creeping on. Maybe we can still get and nick one or get a second one. But then to concede a second one with 10 minutes to go just felt like a real kick in the stomach.
Absolutely.
And not only that, but to concede in the manner that we did. I mean, I've watched it back 5 or 6 times, and I am genuinely puzzled as to who's supposed to be marking him. It just looked like that Spider-Man meme where you've got the three of them all looking at each other going, because they got Kiefer Moore pointing at Kabore and Kabore pointing at Kiefer Moore, and then they're both pointing at somebody else, and it's like, hang on, who's supposed to be marking him? Because whoever it was, completely, it's not like they even, it's not like they got caught out and were a few paces behind him. He literally had nobody on him and couldn't miss. Couldn't miss. I mean, fair play. It was a well-controlled header, but couldn't miss. And at that point, I'm thinking to myself, I thought we'd done more than enough to get something out of that game in that second half to that point. And it just felt a little bit like the whole Leicester performance a couple of weeks ago, where I felt like we were going to lose points unfairly. But yeah, little did I know.
Well, stand by for 16 minutes of absolute madness because, as you rightly said, we're 2-1 down with 10 minutes to go. The packed away end got behind the team, absolutely, but there was that feeling of maybe this is a chance lost because, we really could have shut it out. 83rd minute, Parky finally brought on Josh Windus and Sam Smith in an attacking reshuffle. Lewis O'Brien laid the ball off to Windus to shoot on 88 minutes, but Mbenge blocked his initial effort and the rebound was saved. And then Mbenge was then dismissed in the 90th minute when already on a yellow card for a foul just before halftime. He clattered into Thompson on the touchline. I mean, that's incredibly stupid, isn't it, to do that on 90 minutes?
I mean, because of what happened in the stoppage time, it's been a little bit overlooked. But how significant was that second yellow card? We will never know. Ultimately, it's a rhetorical question because we'll never know the answer. But how significant was that? And like you said, I've seen quite a few QPR fans absolutely raging at him, and quite rightly, because why the hell would you make that challenge when you know you're on a yellow card? But more than that, even if you weren't on a yellow card, why the hell would you make that challenge at that point in the game on that part of the pitch? He was going nowhere. He was going absolutely nowhere. It was such a stupid tackle. And whether that's what's cost his team, like I say, we'll never know. But yeah, I mean, when he gets that second yellow card, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, quite rightly, he's been second yellow and off he goes. But I'd be lying if I said that I thought we were going to come back and win the game. I was hoping that we could maybe come back and try and steal a point.
The feeling in the crowd was, okay, I think they called 6 minutes or 5 minutes, 6 minutes of added time. They are now down to 10 players. You knew they were basically just going to do low block and just try and keep the ball out. That's what they're going to do. So the Wrexham, there was a palpable feeling of we can get an equaliser here. We can get the equaliser here. If we just play smart with the players now we brought on, because Parky had front loaded by bringing on Windass and Smith, and from that point of view, we front loaded a lot. So we had the players there. We can do this. We can get the equaliser. But the problem is, it doesn't always work like that, does it? As we saw against Leicester the game before, where we bossed them. We shouldn't have lost that game, but shouldn't have drawn that game, but we did. 92nd minute, Windass dipping long range shot was parried clear. However, 1 minute later, perfectly timed half volley in the middle of the net, into the middle of the net from O'Brien's corner. The technique on this, and as the meme now has gone around, which I'm so pleased for Andy Morrell, those two guys from Australia who've done the voiceover from Mark Griffiths, where Andy Morrell goes, technique. It is the technique, because that ball is so high when he hits it. He has to get his leg over the top of it and hit it with power. And a sweeter strike you are never going to see. And a more understated celebration, Jamie, you're never going to see either.
Are you going to make me comment on the celebration?
No, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Look, the technique, as Andy Morrell quite eloquently put it, was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. There is not many players in the league that can do what he did. Absolutely. It's hard to explain. If you've never played football, it's hard to explain how difficult that was to do that. The snap half volley, to hit it hard and precise, and to keep it down was absolutely phenomenal. And look, the trademark celebration. It is what it is. It is what it is. I've been very open about my feelings towards it. I still, I guess, at the end of the day, what we have to remember is we don't know what's going on in somebody's life, do we? For all we know, this could be something completely unrelated to football, and this is maybe why he's not showing any emotion.
The thing is, if you look back at his career, he doesn't celebrate goals. And do you know what? I'm now past the point of caring with all the
I don't care. No.
If he bangs in goals like that, he can just do absolutely nothing if he wants to. He can do whatever he wants, because that's the job he's paid to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Score
absolutely.
Goals, and that's what he's done.
I agree with you 100%. I couldn't care less. The point I've made about it previously is just from that scenario of, I personally just feel, as a fan, it helps you have a certain connection with a player when you can see that player is buzzing from scoring for your team. Simple as that. I've seen his quote as well about, well, a postman doesn't celebrate when he's doing his job.
Yeah. I don't think the postman would lift his leg that high, to be brutally honest, to post a letter.
In fairness, though, you have got to caveat that with, you're not really comparing apples with apples there, are you?
No.
In fairness, you're not comparing apples with apples. Look, like you've just said, I couldn't care less. I'm sick of talking about it now. Everybody's got an opinion. Everyone's got an opinion on it. Bottom line is if he is going to carry on playing for us, and all this talk of him moving on is bullshit. If he carries on banging goals like that in, then he can run to the camera and stick a middle finger up directly at me if he wants. I couldn't care less. Like I said in a Discord group this week, though, if it were me and I scored a goal like that, I'd be jumping over the barrier and teabagging the steward myself. But that's just me.
Well, we saw a celebration like that, because 90 seconds to go, maybe a minute to go, 2-2. Wrexham fans now started to believe, because you could see QPR were shaken. They were shot. The QPR fans, I felt so sorry for them, because they were leaving en masse, because they absolutely, it's that whole thing of a win that feels like a loss, even though it's a draw. But guess what? It was going to be a loss anyway. Some great play. Eventually, got towards to some corners where we just kept going on and going on and going on, and then ball comes out to Rathbone, puts the ball over to Broadhead, back to Rathbone, who's on the edge of the box, 25 yards out. And we've seen this before from Ollie, the little Mickey Thomas clone, as he absolutely is, because he looks like him, he plays like him, and he celebrates like him, hits this absolute sweet bullet shot, top right-hand corner as we're looking at it. Sorry, left-hand corner as we're looking at it. Goalkeeper didn't have a chance. Scores the goal with about 5 seconds left to go. Wrexham win 3-2. Away end goes absolutely bananas. I'm hugging people that I don't know. People are hugging me that I don't know.
Told you about that before.
I know. There's a pie came flying past my ear at one point. Somebody had chucked their water bottle in the air. It was just carnage. Absolute carnage of unbridled joy is all I can describe it. Wrexham finished the week sixth, Jamie, and I'm going to ask you about this in a minute. That's the last playoff spot. First time we've been in the playoffs all season, with 17 games left to go in the season. Before I talk about that bit, and all the fantastic people online who were saying, "How come Wrexham were in 6th? They're rubbish. I don't understand it." Yeah, bored. I mean, that goal by Ollie Rathbone. Oh my! A goal of the season for you?
It's certainly going to be a contender. I think. I don't know if it was Tim or whoever was managing the FID account over the weekend, but they made a point that he's not going to give this Player of the Season award up easily.
No. And for somebody who's not played most of the season, that's incredible, isn't it?
Unbelievable. I mean, since he's come back from, and forget the Cardiff appearance, because I think unfair to him, because he clearly wasn't ready. No. Since he's come back from his injury, he's been different level. I mean, the goal on Saturday, it was unbelievable. It was one of those. It was such a simple goal in a way. Simple layoff in front of him, and he's just hit the absolute peach of a strike. But you've got to have confidence to do it. That's a player that is confident at the moment because he's been playing so well. He's been scoring goals. He's come on as a substitute, so he's full of energy. You've got to have confidence to take that shot on. And he couldn't have hit that any sweeter. He could hit the ball 100 times from the same place and he wouldn't hit any sweeter than that. But it was one of those that as soon as it left his foot, you knew it was in. You knew it was in. And the celebrations and the scenes and the stuff with the crowd was phenomenal. I think for me, the one thing that I wanted to kind of say about it was it's probably the first time we've seen with this group of players where that kind of dressing room togetherness that we've heard so much about over the last few seasons and we knew existed, Mullin, Lee, Palmer, and all those guys. We've all kind of there's been times this season where we've all questioned, is this the same sort of mentality group of players? Are these more guns for hire that have just come for the paycheck and all that jazz? And this was the first time this season where you looked at the way that they were together and you felt that, yeah, this is a dressing room. Parky's done his thing again and he's got this dressing room gelled and in sync and all moving in the same, with the same
well, Arthur sprinted all the way down the leg of the pitch to celebrate.
Yeah, that was, that was brilliant. But that goal, that win, that second half, that's why we love football, isn't it? That's why we love football. It's for moments like that. It's moments like that you can't. There's nothing else like it. And
I mean, that goes into my top 5 of Wrexham away moments for me.
Yeah, I mean,
because it was because of the roller coaster, because of the fact that we went down early. First half was appalling. Came out second half, scored fairly early on, had most of the play in the second half, gave away a goal with 10 minutes to go from really rubbishly defended. So you kind of back down to being low again. And then literally from 90 minutes to 95 minutes, just did some incredible stuff.
And like I say, massive credit to the players and all the staff that even after Josh Windass scored that goal and we got 2-2, you think to yourself, we've managed to get the draw here. We're going to go away from home, take the point. We were crap in the first half, been good in the second half, but let's take the point and go. And there wasn't a thought of that. It was, we can win this. We can win this. And yeah, like I say, it looked amazing from, where was I watching it on Saturday? Belgium, I think. It looked amazing from Belgium. And I'm chuffed to bits for all the fans that were there, because that, like I say, those moments, it's those moments which is why we love football. It's it's only a shame that we wish we had a documentary to put things like this in.
Well, I have to be honest, I did get interviewed as I was leaving the ground.
Oh, what a surprise!
So you never know. I might be in the documentary. Who knows? I had to sign a release. Well, they spoke. They wanted to speak to me. I didn't want to speak to them. They want to speak to me. So Wrexham, as we rightly say, are now in 6th, that last playoff place. Fantastic stat from the Championship Chat podcast that I found online. Since Christmas, no team in the Championship has won as many points, which is 16, won as many games, 5, and scored as many goals, 16, as Wrexham. We're in 6th. Obviously, we think Watford have got a game in hand over us, so they win their game in hand, they would leapfrog us and they would push us out. But we've always said, haven't we, mid-table would be great, might get the playoffs, that's fine. Have you changed? I'm going to ask this question. Every other podcast is asking it. It's a bit boring, but I'm going to ask it. Have you changed your outlook now? Thinking, do you know what? Yeah, I think we can make the playoffs. I'm not saying we're going to win the playoffs, but I think we've definitely got a really, really good chance that we can get in there.
Of course we have. Of course we have. We're sat in 6th place. Now. We have a few days of the transfer window left to go. If history tells you anything over the last few seasons, we're now entering Parky territory. If you think back to our League 2, our League 1 promotions, first half of the year, we were, it was hit and miss, more hits than misses, but it was a bit hit and miss, and lots of question marks over individual performances, and this is not, and then turn of the year, you think back to key signings being made in January, which helped us get us over the line. Obviously, you go back to Ollie Palmer back in the National League days. You go back to League 1, and you bringing in Rodriguez and Smith, and it turned out to be the kind of the difference.
And normally we have a crappy Christmas, don't we? Normally. Actually, our Christmas form into the early New Year is fairly sketchy, and then suddenly we click back in. Whereas this Christmas, New Year, it's been incredible.
We've got to be careful not to get too ahead of ourselves at this stage, because there's still there's still so much football to be played.
Absolutely.
But at this point of where we're at now, why not? Why can we not get in the playoffs? I knowing, or the perception we've got of certainly Rob and Ryan from what we've learned about them in the documentary and the kind of personalities, I can only imagine what they've been like this last week or so. They've probably literally signed blank checks and said, "Here you go, Phil. What do you need? What do you want? What do you need?" Because they'll and why wouldn't you? If
absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've had obviously that £48 million come in, through selling shares, which looks like it's gone to Apollo Capital, which most of that money is probably going to go into ground renovation. But still, that's investment,
I mean,
valuing the club at £350 million.
Yeah, I mean that's unbelievable, isn't it? That when I saw that amount,
I don't think we've ever spent £348 million in the entire history of Wrexham AFC, ever.
No, Christ no.
So to have that as one lump sum popped into our bank account,
yeah,
staggering.
I mean it's unbelievable. But like you say, what the purpose of that money is for, who knows? I've heard and read various rumours, but like you say, more off the field for that kind of money. What has been interesting and funny this week is obviously when this Sharif news kind of got publicised by every podcaster and his dog, the amount of people saying, "Oh, Wrexham ruining football. How can they spend this kind of money? How can they go and drop £19 million on a striker?" And totally not understanding how how it works and how.
I hate to say it, Jamie. I think there are a certain number of people out there. It doesn't matter what we do. If we get promoted to the Premiership, they'll hate us. If we win the Premiership, they'll hate us. If we get into Europe, they'll hate us. Unfortunately, there is nothing you can do about that. There is just a percent, and I've had to accept that because I want everybody to love us, but that doesn't happen in football. And there's going to be a percentage of fans.
I think the bottom line is jealousy, isn't it? I think when you do come across a level-headed, level-headed football fan who understands the journey, the club, and kind of how it's been achieved and everything else, it's unbelievable. It's not a Man City way of doing it where they've literally had money to burn. Rob and Ryan have always said from the start, haven't they? They want to build a sustainable club, and that's what they're doing. The problem is from the outside, people don't understand it. They just see two Hollywood film stars. They're just bottomless pit of money, and they're just constantly throwing money at it. But we know that's not how it is. They've turned Wrexham into an absolute marketing machine. A cash generating marketing machine, and that's how we're generating as much money as we are. But to go back to your question about playoffs, look, if we don't finish in the playoffs now, then so be it. I won't be disappointed.
I'm gonna say it. I'll happily say it. We're safe. We're not going to get relegated. So that was the only goal. That was in my 3 goals. That's my goal. Don't get relegated. Job done.
Absolutely. At a high level, you're absolutely right. That was the only objective for this season, was to stay in this division. So if we've achieved that before the end of January, which, like you say, we probably have, happy days. But I think you do have to be a little bit more. You have to be a little bit more broad when you're discussing it, because you can't ignore the fact that we have invested heavily in the team. And we have gotten ourselves into 6th position by the end of January. So, at this stage, you would say the bare minimum really is a top half finish. I think anything less than a top half finish at this point of the season, when you consider the money that's been invested in the team, even before anything else in January, and the position that we've got ourselves into before the end of January, you'd have to say if we didn't finish in the top half of the league, you'd have to be disappointed with that, but not disappointed, if that makes sense. But I don't know. But I mean, would it surprise me if we finished in the playoffs? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think we said it at the start of the season. Even though we all predicted, I think I was the most optimistic, wasn't I? Didn't I say 10th or 11th or something like that? And you guys were like 14, 15, something.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are Wrexham fans out there who at the start of the season probably predicted we could finish in the playoffs. I've not come across many of them. But I also don't think any Wrexham fan, if you'd have said, would you be surprised if come the end of the season you're in one of the playoff places? I wouldn't have been then, and I won't be now, just because of what the hell we've achieved over the last few years. So, let's wait and see. But why not?
it's time for the away day footy scran review.
Well, it's quite noisy, obviously, and we're not in West London anymore, even though it's the Queen's Park Rangers away day. We're actually in Bristol because we're out with the Coch and Cymru, the South Wales Reds, on the trip, and of course we've got to do an away day footy scran review, and we're doing it here in the Beehive pub in Bristol because it's a favourite stop on the way home back to South Wales. So, what have I ordered, you're asking? Well, what I've ordered is gammon, eggs, chips and peas with a side order of onion ring, which is on its way. So, wait up! So I'm going to eat this. As you can tell, everybody's a little bit happy after what we've just seen. So I'm going to eat this and I'll tell you what it's like. So away from the noise, as you can imagine, there's a little bit of a party going on with the Coch and Cymru, the South Wales Reds. You'll have just heard what Jamie, Daz and I thought about it. But anyway, what about the food, you say? What about the food, Si? What about the food? Yeah, it was okay. Gammon was nice, but a little bit tough. Chips, they were oven chips. They were thick cut oven chips. They were okay, nothing special. Peas, well, that's green, so you don't count that anyway, that's rubbish. Egg, nice, runny egg, very good. Onion rings, nice, fresh onion rings, but just nothing really special. Price was expensive, it was £22. I don't know, that's a kind of a sit-down meal, so you're never quite sure. You know, it's not comparable, but, you know. I'm going to give it 7 out of 10. 7 priors out of 10. You know, not bad, not awful, but not amazing. But it filled me up, and let's be honest, doesn't matter, does it? Not after what we've just seen. Anyway, up the town. I tell you what, there were going to be some sore heads on the Sunday because they were tying one on with that.
I've got a few issues with that. I'm not going to lie.
Okay,
I'm not sure how you can classify that as a QPR away day because
it was. We were coming back from QPR.
But that's like having a Ginsters at a service station on the way back from QPR and saying it's a QPR away day.
Still a QPR away day.
You're gonna if you're putting this in the table, you're gonna have to put a little asterisk next to it. And secondly, £22.
I know. The thing is,
it looked like Sid's calf off Only Fools and Horses for starters. when you say a sit down meal, it didn't look luxury. I'll give you that. £22.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, the Beehive pub's great because the landlord is a Wrexham supporter.
I've heard. What's his name? Reese off Fearless. I've heard him talk about. Obviously, he goes a lot.
Yeah, it's a brilliant pub, to be fair, because he basically just there's 48 of us on a coach and we all come in at the same time, and he just serves us all food and the drink's great, and it's a nice little pub, right on the outskirts of Bristol. So it's always a stop off point because most of the South Wales Reds always do London trips. I think they're planning to do Watford. I think in March. I think is the next one. They'll stop on the way back, and you can order your food and everything. It's great. But so that's really, really good. Yeah, and it was all right, but not amazing.
I don't know how you've got the goal to criticise my whatever it was £18 for my steak in it a few weeks ago when you paid £22 for that.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Let's look at the footy scran table. I've not put an asterisk on it, Jamie.
Well, you need to.
There it is in fourth. So Swansea, Ipswich, Stoke, Queen's Park Rangers, Briton Ferry, Llansamble, Southampton, Aberystwyth, Leicester, Blackburn, and Wembley Stadium, London at the bottom. In the away day footy scran review, and there will be another one next week as I visit Sheffield Wednesday. So I need to try and I'll try and sort out something for that, which will be good. But thank you to the Coch and Cymru, the South Wales Reds, for a fantastic trip, really enjoyable. Great. The one that made me laugh about it. So. They're trying to announce to the bus. They're trying to say, right, okay, we're gonna stop in Shepherd's Shepherd's Bush first, if people want to drop off, because it's a 10-minute, 15-minute walk to the ground from there. So if people want to get off Shepherd's Bush to go for food, and then the bus will go on to the ground. So he's trying to explain this, but every time he said the word bush, the back of the bus was singing "Bush, Bush, 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 Bush." No income tax. No, he's trying desperately to give out the information, but he can't, because every time he said the word bush, so he had to stop saying bush, which is quite funny. But yeah, that was really good. Yeah, really, really enjoyable. Thank you to them. Definitely will be. If you're in South Wales and you want a good away football trip, sign up for it. Brilliant, great bus, nice and clean, nice and comfy, no problems at all. Yeah, brilliant. So Sunday saw Wrexham Women taking on Briton Ferry Llansawell Women again in the Gennaro Adrian Premier this time. Let's look at the lineup first of all. Jamie, 4 changes from the loss. No, it's not 4 changes from the loss at all. I'm going to kind of see a number of changes. I can't remember because I've not done that bit. I'm obviously not typed that up on my script. But a really strong bit, obviously, with the fact that Leah Burks was playing again. Ava Suckley had swapped wings. She'd gone from right wing to left wing in that midfielder. Back 3 again of Burke, Bartle, and Lovett. Lily Jones again bossing the field, and then you've got that kind of up front 3 of Barker, Knox, and Hughes. Great to see Rosie on. Obviously, that she got that red card in the cup, but she got back to play. I mean, from your point of view, not really surprised with that kind of starting 11. It's in that kind of rock solid now. Most of those players you're going to be able to pick now, because Jenny Sugarman's she now knows who she's going to play, really, doesn't she?
Yeah, I mean, it's she'd been, without putting the knockers on it, been fairly lucky generally with injuries this season so far, and hasn't had to deal with too many injuries or people being absent from injuries. So has been able to sort of, in the main, pick her strongest team. Like I think we've said it a few times. I think every week you could maybe 1 or 2 changes. You could argue and say, would you be surprised if those 2 were playing instead of those 2? Probably not. But the crux of the team picks itself, doesn't it? So yeah, no issues with that. It was a good starting lineup.
Well, Briton Ferry scored first. Again, they managed to get behind us on our left wing, slotted in. Grace Evans came into the near post, even though she was flanked by 2 defenders, got to the ball first. Very little that Lizzie Craven could do. And Grace puts it into the net for Briton Ferry to take a 1-0 lead. Jamie, go on.
I was just going to say, what did I've not had a chance to listen to your affair pod yet for this game. What did Dell say about the goalkeeping on that goal? Because I didn't watch the game, unfortunately. I wasn't even able to see the highlights. And when I saw their goal, I was my initial thought was, without shitting on the goalkeepers, my initial thought was I thought the keeper could have done better. But what did Dell say?
Dell said that there was very little that Lizzie Craven could do. Maybe one coaching note that she would have, because obviously, because the ball's coming at speed, it's coming at you, you have a tendency to want to step back because you want to get away from it. And she would maybe say Lizzie really needs to get in there a bit more and get a bit more physical, but it's very, very difficult. I think Lizzie was expecting the defense, because I would say she was flanked by Ava Suckley and Erin Lovett, Grace Evans, and neither of them managed to stop her getting the ball in the net. So I think from a goalkeeping point of view, there wasn't ever any overt criticism from Dell for Lizzie. It was, it was kind of a couple of maybe coaching notes, but very little she could do to stop the shot, to be honest. I mean, more worryingly for me, we've seen that goal happen a number of times where they, I think it's the problem, obviously, of playing with a back 3, because we can be a little bit too centred. And if the wingers aren't on pat and they're not getting back fast enough, ironically, it's a very similar problem that the men.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's the downside to playing playing with a wing back system. Men's, women, senior, kids football, it doesn't matter what level of football it's at. If you play a wing back system, it's very reliant on you having wing backs that can get up and down the field efficiently. But no matter how efficient they can get up and down the field, the very nature of the fact you've got a wing-based player who is tasked with going forward and covering back defensively, there is always going to be situations where gaps are left in behind. There's no way of avoiding it 100% because otherwise you'll end up in a situation where you're just constantly a back five because you're always defending, or you go to a back four and you negate it that way. So I know what you're saying. It's not the first time we've seen a goal conceded like that. It won't be the last either. But it's a consequence of playing with wing backs.
Well, Wrexham didn't take long to get back into the game. An on-rushing Feyenox was brought down by Brooke Llewellyn just inside the box, leaving the ref to point to the spot. Katie Barker stepped up to the mark and shot it. Beautiful penalty from 12 yards out on 14 minutes. Big question.
I'm not sure about
Jamie. Yeah, is it a penalty? Was it a penalty?
Again, I watched it. The first time I watched it, I thought, because in all honesty, I kind of watched it and I was like, I can see why that's been given a clear penalty. And then it was only when the commentator, because it wasn't, because it was on Scorio, wasn't it? So it wasn't Mark's commentary. It was,
no.
Forgive me, I can't remember who it was, but whomever the co-commentator was for Pedwarek was.
I think it's Katie Sherwood. I think Katie Sherwood.
Possibly, yeah. And she said, "Oh, I'd like to see that again because I'm not sure how much contact there was." So I watched the replay and then I watched it back, and again, you've only got one angle of it, so it's hard to tell. But I'm not sure there was a lot of contact. I think it was. I can understand why the ref's given it, because in real time at full speed, and I'm not saying it's also important as well that I'm clear that I'm not saying that I think Knox dived, because I don't think she did. I think it was just a bit of a bizarre scenario, a bit of a bizarre coming together of legs that in real time at real speed looked like a trip, but I don't think it was. So I think we kind of got away with one there, if I'm honest, personally.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so it was 1-1 at half time. After the break, momentum was still very much with Wrexham. Briton Ferry tried to frustrate and sit deep, but that was never going to sit for 90 minutes. Liz Craven was called into action though, just on the hour short of the break. She produced a key save from Maya Owen after 57 minutes, but at 62 minutes, Wrexham deservedly got the lead back. A short corner. Training ground by the looks of it, complete. Threaded to Barker. Barker managed to grab at least a yard space from the defender, which you can't give her. Turned beautifully on a sixpence, threaded through a crowded box, curled the delivery right into the centre of the box, and there's Hughes, completely unmarked, headed it home past Courtney Young for Rosie's 16th goal of the 25-26 campaign. I mean, what a goal that was, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, it was the actual goal was fairly straightforward, wasn't it? It was the build-up play was what made it. I think, even though it was 1-1 at half time, from what I could gather from looking at the highlights, it looked like we were very much in the better team in that first half, and then carried it on into the second half. And I think it was the same scenario as the last couple of games we played against them, really, where I think it was only a matter of time. And in the end, it's that bit of quality. Again, from not seeing the full game, I can't say for sure, but from what I saw in the highlights, Katie Barker looked like she was getting back, closer to what we saw at the start of the season. I think she in recent games, she's not quite been the same, but in this game, she looked to be kind of at the heart of everything.
She's creating lots and lots of chances, and she's being an absolute nuisance, which means it's giving other players chances. And that's all you can ask. Yes, you'd like her to be able to, because if she was putting her chances away, this wouldn't be 3-1, this would be 6-1 or 7-1, because she's getting that many chances. But she's creating chances for other players, and that's just as important for me.
Absolutely. I mean, that's maybe something that's slightly different to the early part of the season, because the early part of the season was she was banging in goals left, right, and centre. But we also said it a few times, didn't we, on here? And I've heard other people comment on it as well, which is that at times she was a little bit selfish in a lot of her play, where she was shooting when she should have passed. But again, I think when we talked about this previously, I think I said that's just a striker's mentality. But I suppose it's a learning curve, isn't it? Every time you play the game, and every time you more games you play, if you're being honest, and if you're it's going as it should, you should be learning every time. So, maybe as the season's going on, she's developing into being a bit more aware of what's around her and still getting in those dangerous positions. But like you say now, maybe is bringing other players into it a bit more than she was earlier in the season. So the downside is that maybe from a personal perspective, she's not maybe scoring as many goals as she was, but the team as a whole is maybe scoring more goals where it maybe wouldn't have earlier in the season. And like you say, at the minute, Rosie's benefiting massively, isn't she?
Well, revenge is a dish that's best served cold, and Josie Smith, she's a superb through ball to Rosie, who'd found loads of space between the centre backs, stayed on side, took the ball, put it in front of her, fired it past the keeper, got 2 goals, Wrexham 3-1 up, game over. I mean, by that point, Briton Ferry were tiring quite badly, which is not surprising considering the amount of games they've played.
That second goal was just it was a very quick cameo of the extra level of quality that we possess. With the greatest respect to Briton Ferry, hats off to him. I think in these, Christ, what was this? This was like the 66th game we've played against them now, isn't it? Something like that. So, in all the games, and I suppose we can argue and we can debate about the physicality they've put in, and whether it's been excessive at times and all that jazz. But I think you've got to give them some credit because they've for big parts of the games they've been competitive. It's just that they've fallen away as the game's gone on, which I say is to be understood. But what you can never deny is the likes of Wrexham and Cardiff, who have in the nicest possible way, generally a better calibre of player. That second Rosie Hughes goal was a great example of that level of quality, because the pass and finish was just superb.
Fantastic. Olivia Kett-White was sent off for Briton Ferry after fouling Barker on the break with no other covering defenders, so she got a straight red. But the victory was done by that point. It was 3-1, and Wrexham finished the week second in the Adran Premier, 1 point behind leaders Cardiff City. Doing what we need to do, get the win. Yes, it wasn't as convincing as last week, but Briton Ferry changed their formation. They learned some lessons, changed some players around. They got their on loan player on from Swansea City, who it was a really good player. Fortunately, it wasn't enough because it just, as you really said earlier on, it just shows the quality levels that Wrexham have. I mean, unfortunately, Briton Ferry manager after the game is no longer the manager. I felt for him, to be honest, because he can only play the cards that he's dealt, and it must be very, very difficult. But again, Wrexham doing what they need to do, just get the win, and that's the most important thing in phase 1, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said a minute ago, I think in all of the games we've played with Briton Ferry recently, there's been sections of the game where you could debate and discuss what we could have done better, what we should have done better, and but the bottom line is that the results at the end of it have been the most important thing. The bottom line is that we're now very close to entering that part of the season where it isn't going to matter. Performances, yes, you want both. You want a good performance and a good result, but performances are not going to matter. It's going to be all about results. So I think these games recently where we've been pushed a bit more physically and we haven't maybe been able to dominate the game as we probably can and should, we've done enough, and that's going to be crucial going into this next phase.
And it's now confirmed, Jamie, who the top 4 are going to be for phase 2. It's going to be us, Cardiff City, Swansea City, and TNS. Swansea City is starting to come back into form. Cardiff, are doing what Cardiff do. TNS are a little bit up and down. I mean, at least that's it's North Wales gig, so that's good for travel and everything else. Not unexpected though, really, is it, to see those 3 teams with us in the top 4?
No, I don't think so. I think I think that would have probably been most people's predictions for the top 4 at the the start of the season. We're in a great position, aren't we? We're in a great position, and as much as it's now out of our hands, whereas a few weeks ago it was in our hands, we're in a great position. And I think what is for sure is, as much as there's no guarantees that we're going to win every game we've got to play in this second phase, that's the same for Cardiff. There's no guarantee, even though they are a very good side. There's no guarantee they're going to win every game, is there? So, do you know what? I think it's. It's a shame, really, that the kind of format of the league is what it is, because it is very much an all or nothing, isn't it? It's only really winning the league is what matters, and it would be disappointing if we don't. But I think what you do have to say at this stage is it's certainly set up a very exciting second half or the second phase, because whatever happens now, there's going to be some real jeopardy in these games coming up.
Need something hot inside you? Then it's definitely time for the chip shop. Jamie is flying solo this week, so he'll have to work twice as hard, which is half as hard as everybody else, whatever. Let's look at last week's league predictions, shall we? Jamie and I predicted a Wrexham win, and we were right, but Daz predicted the draw. So both of us get 1 point either further away in Jamie's case or closer in my case to Daz. And then we all kind of predicted Wrexham Women to win against Briton Ferry Women. Unfortunately, none of us could get the actual score right. But Jamie is still 9 points ahead of Daz, 11 points ahead of me. I've closed with 1 point to 2 points behind Daz. So hopefully that means that again, it's all to play for. It's still all to play for. That's the main thing. So first into the fryer tonight, it's Sheffield Wednesday. So Saturday, 31st of January, at Hillsborough, kickoff 12:30 p.m. GMT, early lunchtime kickoff. Don't forget that. Wrexham play Sheffield Wednesday. Last time we played them, 23rd of August, at the Stoke Kairos. It was a 2-2 draw, but only just. Strictly speaking, Sheffield Wednesday should have won, but it was only a last-minute save by Danny Ward that saved our blushes. Both Wrexham goals on that day were scored by Kiefer Moore. Sheffield Wednesday have had an awful time, a dreadful time with going into administration, points deductions, heavily depleted squad. They can't do any transfers in this window because of the embargo imposed by the EFL. They still, I don't think, have got their full ownership sorted. I think they still kind of go on. They've just lost Barry Bannon to Millwall, their kind of main influential player who scored against us. I mean, they right now, I think, are just trying to enjoy the ride as best they can, because that's all they've got left. Because they're going to get relegated without a shadow of a doubt. They're currently bottom of the league with only 1 win, 8 draws, 19 losses, a goal difference of -38, and due to points deductions for going into administration, currently sitting on -7 points, 23 points away from even just getting out of the relegation zone. The last 5 league results: a 3-0 loss away at Preston, a 3-0 loss away at Queen's Park Rangers, a 1-0 loss at home to Portsmouth, a 2-0 loss at home to Birmingham City, and a 2-0 loss away at Bristol City. And the chips are done. It's almost like kicking a dog when it's down. It's just, I feel for them so much. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Their fans must be glad that this club is finally getting sorted out, which is great. But, this must be a dreadful, dreadful experience for them. It really must be. Yeah,
I mean, you wouldn't kind of wish it on any club, would you? Well, maybe Chester and Shrewsbury, but other than them, you kind of you wouldn't. You don't want to see this, and we talked about it. We don't really need to kind of rehash it from when we played them at home. The off the field, it's terrible. But like you just said, I think even though it's not finalised yet, I think the kind of the end is in sight, which I think is probably what their fan base are clinging to, isn't it? They're just working on the basis that Chansiri's gone, and hopefully now somebody new comes in and they can start again. They've resigned themselves to relegation. They know they're getting relegated, and there's obviously been some sad situations with players where the likes of Josh Windass and Michael Smith left, didn't they? And then, like you say, obviously Barry Bannon has now gone today. So it is terrible. But from our point of view, I mean, you can never be guaranteed a win, can you?
I've got the word banana skin in my head. I really have.
I'm worried too. But that's just the old school Wrexham pessimist in me. Is I'm ingrained to be nervous for fixtures like this, and ultimately, we should have beat them at home, and we ended up drawing. But given that was different then to what it is now, they've lost key players that they had then that they haven't got now. No more so than Barry Bannon. I mean, that second half against us, he absolutely turned into prime Messi, and he ran the show. That the young lad that they had on loan from Man United's now gone to Norwich. That Amos, he's gone to Norwich. I think they've got another couple of players who they look like they're on the verge of leaving in this window. So, look, I think we've got to trust Parky and Steve Parkin that they're going to make sure that these lads have got the right head. Their head is in the right place, because obviously, and it would be unfair of me to suggest that the players are going to walk into this thinking they've already won it before they have. I would, I'd give them the benefit of the doubt. They're far more professional than that. But the bottom line is that when you look at everything as it is at the moment, you look at their last 10 results, even if you go beyond the last 5 and you look at the last 10 results, they're struggling to score a goal. They're conceding goals. They're losing every week. And from our point of view, going back to your question you asked me before about, playoff aspirations and stuff like that, there is no ifs, buts and maybes. If we're serious about trying to get a playoff place, we have to win this game. And that sounds really extreme, and I don't mean it from the point of view that I'm not going to say the same next week when we're talking about Millwall. I'm not going to say we have to win that game. I mean from the context of when you consider the opposition and what they're going through and where they're at and what they've been doing recently. For me, it's a must-win game. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to paint a picture that it's a must-win game because if we lose it, we're not going to get playoffs. I just mean in isolation, anything but a Wrexham win would be an awful day.
Well, they've only got one win so far all season, So even a draw, though, would be disappointing. I know what you're saying. I mean, because of the level of opposition, do you think Parky will play players who are a bit more fringe and rest his kind of key ones? Because obviously we've got Millwall at home coming up. We've got the 2 Ipswich games coming up. In the middle of that now, we've got to go away to Bristol City because they've put that game in the middle. So we've got Ipswich home, Bristol away, Ipswich back at home again, which is not helpful, to be brutally honest with you. Do you think he might rest players and go, well, do you know what? Let's bring in a bit more fringe and give them a go, and you'll still have the kind of experience on the bench, but let's put in some players where you're thinking, play Barney, play J-Rod. Yeah. Don't play Cody.
Possibly. Again, history tells you that Parky generally doesn't do that. But I agree. I'm just trying to think really who potentially would you expect to see. I mean, I'm not sure. Like you said, J-Rod there. I'm not sure you give J-Rod a start. That to me feels more. If you were going to go down that route, that's more like Virtue Trophy kind of team. That is.
I mean, he has played in the reserve. He played 60 minutes in the reserve.
Yeah, this. Again, like what we said at the beginning, we've got to be very careful because we can't fall into a trap before a ball's kicked that we've won this before we started.
Yeah, so absolutely.
I wonder whether my gut feeling is I think what Parky's more likely to do is to probably go with a strong side, and that might mean that you've got maybe a Barney on the right. or a Longman, and Thomason still on the left, and both Kakachi and Kabore are on the bench maybe, and maybe Smith instead of Moore up front. I don't know, maybe a few changes like that, but even changes like that, you'd still say those are quite strong picks. But my gut feeling is I think he will go quite strong at the start with a hope that we can, come 60 minutes, be 2 or 3 up. And at that point, then he can bring on some players off the bench and rest some players that way. That's how I feel he will approach it. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? But you make a good point. You make a good point. Even though we've got a week before the next game, when we get to that game, we have then got another run of fixtures in a lot of fixtures in a very short space of time. And now because of that Bristol move in travelling, even though they'd probably be flying, it's still travelling and dicking around, isn't it? So.
Absolutely. So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce Koch. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Sheffield Wednesday versus Wrexham?
I mean, you have to go for a Wrexham win. I've looked at Sheffield Wednesday's last 6 games. They've not scored a goal in the last 6 games, so I'm going to go for a 3-0 Wrexham win. I think I couldn't decide between 2-0 and 3-0, but I'm going to hope that we ride that wave that we were feeling at the end of the QPR game and come away with a good win.
Well, as we said, Daz isn't here in person, but he has left us a video message with his prediction. So, Daz, what's your score prediction for Sheffield Wednesday versus Wrexham?
So, predictions. Starting off with the men's game, and I'm going to be fairly confident that Sheffield Wednesday are not going to be the test that they would have been historically. As much as this game's at Hillsborough, they're not really showing much of a fight in their battle to stay up. I know they've got all the points deducted and all of that, but the performances, I don't think they've even scored a goal in January, so that's not looking good. So I know they'll try. I know they're trying their best. I know they put in an effort against Brentford in the Cup and all sorts of things, but it's curtains for them. So it's more a case of I'm assuming that Wrexham will keep a clean sheet, and it's just depending on how many goals we think Wrexham will score. So my guess at the moment, I think it's going to be 2. So I'm going to go for Sheffield Wednesday 0, Wrexham 2.
And I'm predicting Sheffield Wednesday 0, Wrexham 4. I think we're going to have a goal fest. I think you're probably right, Jamie. I think he'll go strong to begin with. And then I think when we get a number of goals, I think then he'll change. My fear is that by whatever, they get a goal first and then dig in, and then we have to try and get past the low block. That's my fear. But I mean, we're playing academy players, and players who are not, all the like we said earlier, all the good players have all gone. All the ones that are clubs want, they've cherry picked, and I feel incredibly sorry for them. But yeah, I think 4-0, to be brutally honest with you. Brutal, but there you go. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And next into the fryer tonight, it's Briton United Women. So the last game of Phase 1 of the Junior Adron Premier sees Wrexham travel to Jenner Park to play Briton United Women on Sunday, 1st of February. Kick-off 5:10 p.m. GMT. So don't forget, late kick-off. Barrytown haven't had a great season, currently 7th in the league, 4 wins, 1 draw, 8 losses, goal difference of -20 and 13 points. They're unable to get into the top 4 and are looking unlikely to go down because of Pontypridd United in 8th of 0 points and 0 wins. Last time Wrexham and Barry met was at the Rock in September, where Wrexham won 3-2. Wrexham goals from Jodie Bartle, Hannah Snape and Phoebe Davis. And the chips are done. So, Jamie, last game, last of the teams probably where you're thinking, well, yeah, this should be a win because of they're in 7th, we're in 2nd. They've not had a particularly good season. We have the skills to be able to do it, to get the goals. Is that how you see it? Or do you kind of think, yeah, we still got to be careful?
No, I mean, you excuse me. I think you've always got to be respectful of your opposition, no matter where they are in this league. Even though there is a huge gulf between, the top and the bottom. I mean, interestingly, you look at their results. It was at the beginning of December they drew with the New Saints. So they are capable of, maybe like a surprise performance when they need to. But from our perspective, we should have. They lost 7-1 to Swansea last week. We, without sounding sort of big-headed, we should be. Cardiff, Swansea, Wrexham should be pummeling these guys. So I would expect, and I would hope, and I would think that the way that Jenny will be kind of approaching this and getting the team set up for this will be very much with a look. This is the last game of the first phase. We know we're going into the second phase in a good position. Let's really go and put a statement in here and go into that second phase in a really strong position. But like we said before, the win first and foremost is the most important thing. But I think it'll do confidence no harm whatsoever if it can be a good, solid, sizable win to send us into the second phase.
So, time for the salt, vinegar and sauce score. As I said, Daz not here, but he sent his prediction in. So, Daz, what's your score prediction for Barrytown United Women versus Wrexham Women?
So, for the women's game, Barrytown. So, this is going to be a slightly different game, I think, to the one that was at the beginning of the season. I think it was much tighter then, wasn't it? Something like the second game up, and so it was only a goal in it. So I don't think it's going to be as close as that. I mean, Barrytown have had some, mid-table results. I mean, they've done all right. They've, but then they had that thumping last week. Was it 7-1 something? So their confidence has got to have been rocked. I think Wrexham are still, showing the form of contenders, which is very exciting for you guys, I guess. But Barry are, they're not Pontypridd, so they're not going to be a walkover, but they're in that mid-table battle of 7th, 6th, and 5th. So, they shouldn't be really that difficult to beat. So with that in mind, I am going to go for a 4-0 win to Wrexham. I know I've said that for the last few weeks in a row, and it hasn't quite come off. So, keep sticking with it. It's going to come true at some point, right, guys?
Emblazoned there from Daz. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Barrytown United Women versus Wrexham Women?
See, I have to be honest, I was going to say 4-0 as well. How have they done? I know they got pummeled last week, but how have they done other than that? Big Pontypridd, but then who hasn't? Briton Ferry. You see, my biggest thing whenever predicting the women's fixtures is always weather. I'm always leaning more towards giving the opposition a goal. I'm going to say 4-1 to Wrexham.
And I'm predicting Briton Ferry. Got them in the head. Barrytown United Women 1, Wrexham 3. I think. I think they might get a goal. They might sneak a goal in. And I don't think it's going to be a massive goal fest because unless Katie Barker suddenly finds her shooting boots and starts popping them in, and then it could be 6 or 7-1. But I'm going to go with 3-1 to be conservative. But you can't see anything but a Wrexham win, to be honest. We'll end phase 1 with only 2 losses, which is great, from that point of view. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm, and we'll be looking back at both these games in next week's pod. So there we are, all over for another week. Next week, obviously, we'll look back at the Wrexham men's game at Sheffield Wednesday and Wrexham women's game versus Briton United Women. And we look forward to Wrexham back at the Stoke Kairas as they host high-flying Millwall, which will be a fun game, as always playing Millwall and meeting Millwall fans is. In fact, the last time Millwall fans came to the Stoke Kairas, I think they broke through the stiles, from what I remember. Yeah, that was interesting. And Wrexham women have their Beauty Energy Welsh FA Cup quarter-final game away at Carmarthen Town Women. Please let us know by the usual channels on social media, or, make a comment on YouTube, on Spotify, make a comment, send us an email, eatmorechipspodcast@gmail.com, because we always welcome your questions, comments, etc., and so on. Daz, as I said, has not been here in person, but he wanted to say goodbye. So, bye, Daz.
Okay, I've been in this London town for far too long now. Got to get myself out of here. So I am going to head off. But hope the pod was a good one. I'll catch up with you properly soon. And see you soon. Cheers.
And of course, here, ever present as always, probably sick as a pig, the fact that he wasn't at QPR on Saturday. Because, boy, what a party that was. My little brother, Jamie. Thank you, Jamie.
Pleasure, as always.
Smile when you say that, will you?
I'm doing my Josh Windass impression. Pleasure as always.
Pleasure as always. Hey, that's what you get paid for, mate. You get paid to talk football.
That's it. That's it. So, yeah.
That's exactly right. So, thank you very much to everybody. Pleasure as always. And, of course, as we always say, come on, Cymru, and come on the town.
Briton, 4-0. Thomas, after like a goal. That's number 5.
Plays it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy. It's 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Alex Cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee!
Back to back to back promotions. Can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast.